Hour number 2 officially underway right now. The place to be. It's SportsGrid. College football today. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Lisi in hour number 2. You know how we get down. The biggest games, absolutely. But let's get inside some of those numbers here. You can say, okay, they're going to cover the spread. They're going to go over the total, Joe. But I love prop bets here. The people love prop bets, Joe. We got prop bets for them out here. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and some of the props that we put on the show last week came through.
Yeah.
Nate Frazier had for an anytime touchdown, huge performance. Yep. And again, when you look at this matchup against Texas, I mean, I think there's value across the board. Both teams need to win the game, but Texas, really backs against the wall. Let's see what they have.
Let's see what they have tonight, Joe. Texas and Georgia, 325, 326 on the rotation, 7:30 start between the hedges in the SEC. Texas, Georgia. Joe. 5.5s to 6.5s to 6s to 5.5s. I am now seeing on the board right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook -4.5, and I believe in that. I like Texas today with the points, Joe. I got 6.5. We're down to 4.5. CLV, baby.
Yeah, well, again, you have a team in Texas that really needs to win because you don't know. There's no guarantee if they beat A&M that they're going to be in the college football playoff. You have to take care of business today, and you're talking about a team in Georgia that ripped them both times last year. With a backup quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, they still won the SEC championship in the second half last year in December, right? And you got ripped last year in Austin. It's going to come up to Arch Manning. Can he attack that secondary over the top? Can he make plays with his legs? Because when you look at Georgia, the one aspect of Georgia's defense where they struggle, mobile quarterbacks. Ole Miss ripped them with Trinidad Chambliss. We saw some others that have mobile quarterbacks move the football, and that's going to be the matchup tonight.
By the way, if we are looking at the quarterbacks, Joe, because we have two really good defenses, not a high total. Gunnar Stockton's passing prop, 220.5. Arch Manning's passing prop, 220.5. If you had to back one of those guys, Joe, over or under, who would it be on their passing prop?
No, it would be Gunnar Stockton. And again, I know the MO of Georgia is to potentially run the football, but you're going right into the strength of Texas. Texas has one of the best rush defenses, 78 yards per game, only giving up 173 passing yards per game. But again, I think Georgia takes the approach, playing at home, utilize Stockton over the top to open up the rushing attack. For Arch Manning, again, what is their identity? We still don't know. He's coming on in back-to-back weeks. But at the end of the day, this team has struggled against better competition, especially in road environments, and that's a cause of concern.
Let's take a look at the rushing props in this game because both of these quarterbacks are mobile, Joe. You take a look at Arch Manning, 21.5 is his rushing prop today. Gunnar Stockton, 30.5. But the running backs, Wisner, 54.5. Bowens at 38.5. And then you take a look at Nate Frazier, 54.5. I know you like the Georgia Bulldogs angle here. Frazier there sitting at 54.5. We going with top dogs today? We going with quarterbacks? What gives?
Well, I think I would take Arch Manning rushing, light number, but I think he's got to get through that. They have to implement some RPO into the game to take the pressure off of him in the passing attack. 21.5, you're risking sacks, but Georgia hasn't got a lot this year. They did get 3 last week, only 11 on the year. I still would lean to Arch Manning over the 21.5. You just look at these performances, though, Donnie. 303 rushing yards out of Georgia on the ground against Miss State. Over 220 against Alabama. Over 200 against Ole Miss. They're a dominant rush-heavy attack. I would take Nate Frazier again. He's the more athletic running back over Bowens. Bowens is the grinder between the tackles, but that you might get those yards in the second half of this game.
Taking a look here, Joe, at some of the receivers, because you are getting some bonuses here. And again, not a high total in the spot. A lot of good defense supposed to be played. High man on the totem pole, Joe, Ryan Wingo for Texas, 58.5. And then you take a look at UGA. That's Zachariah Branch, 62.5. But a lot of those other guys, Joe, the 20s and 30s in that range. Who can we look at or count on, I should say, as a wide receiving option today?
Well, out of all the wide receivers, I do believe in Zachariah Branch. Stepped up somewhat last week, 62.5. I think he can get to potentially 70, 80, or 90 today. He's a big play home run hitter, transfer from USC. On the Texas side, even though Wingo has the better numbers, Livingstone potentially is the go-to guy in a crunch, and I like DeAndre Moore. He hasn't hit pay dirt in a while, but DeAndre Moore is a big-bodied receiver that I think could potentially have value today.
Now, we talk about pay dirt picks here, finding the end zone here in this SEC tilt. Nate Frazier in the clubhouse as the leader in the odds market, Joe, roughly a -120. Everybody else is plus money. Stockton, Wisner, Bowens, Branch. Who do we look at today?
Well, I'm on Frazier because, again, he was the home run hitter last week. He's going to get, I believe, multiple looks in the rushing attack today. But don't count out Gunnar Stockton. Again, Gunnar Stockton in big games has chosen to run and hit pay dirt. I think he's got great value. But I like Georgia in the matchup, so I'm only looking Georgia props right now. Zach Branch, Stockton, and Frazier would be my big three.
If we were looking at Georgia-only props, Joe, I'm going to give you this one. Georgia total yards today, over, under. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the number is. What would you think today Georgia would be as an over or under for team total yards?
I would say 325.
379.5, which means you're banking on 400 yards of offense. If I flip it over, Joe, to Texas, that's 354.5 for Texas. That's doable. That sounds doable.
It does sound doable, but keep in mind, Donnie, I don't know if Texas is going to be able to run the football, and that is the cause of concern when you look at Texas big picture. We talk about the difference this year as opposed to last year. They were 25 rushing yards more higher last year than they were this year. Inconsistent at times. They haven't run it in big games, right? You even look at the game against Vanderbilt. They really struggled running the football. Again, we know Vanderbilt has a very good, solid front seven. Georgia's only allowing 100 yards per game, but they've been getting after it as of late. It's got to come through the air with Arch Manning. I would lean to, knowing that Georgia's at 379, I like Georgia's number much better than I do Texas today.
Look, I didn't like Texas's team coming into the season here. You show up and taking the horseshoe, you get beat in that game, and then things don't look good for Arch Manning. But my betting card today in this game, Joe, it's simple. Texas with the spread plus 6.5 points. I'll take them to keep this game within a touchdown. I think it makes a lot of sense. And also understand this, Joe, from a big picture perspective. Like sometimes, Texas not really fat. Like they're 7-2 overall, but 4-1 in the SEC. You pick up this win at 5-1, and let's just say Alabama might get beat today, or a Texas A&M might get beat today. They're right in the thick of the things to actually win this conference when I was writing them off.
Yeah, well, the one loss came to Ohio State week number 1. So, yes, it's just the eye test, though, Donnie. When you look at Texas, yes, they beat Kentucky, didn't cover. They beat Vanderbilt, depending upon when you book that line. They either didn't cover or covered. They didn't cover against Miss State. They have ugly wins on their resume. Florida, right? They laid 3.5, 4 in that game and lost the game outright by 8 points. Their road performances have not been good. So from the eye test, you say they really need this win. That'll look great on the resume. But again, styles make fights. They do have the win over Oklahoma. Granted, Mateer came back from injury that week, but it's a quality win. They pick up this win against Georgia. They look a lot better than they did last week.
Let's focus on Arch Manning because, again, coming into the season, he's going to automatically win the Heisman. Texas is going to have a great season. He's going to go to the NFL and be the #1 overall pick. Hasn't worked out that way. Concussion issues here and still fighting through it. But, Joe, his last 2 games, Mississippi State, 29-46 for 346, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Vanderbilt, 25 of 33, 328, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Has he turned the corner on this? Like, this is the player we anticipated, Joe.
Yes, but you're right. He has turned the corner. Now, maybe, granted, the offensive line has played much better, and he's had time and protection. But, again, I'll just throw this out. Common opponents for both teams. Georgia won by 4 on a neutral field against Florida. Texas lost outright by basically 8 points. Miss State, they lost by 20 to Georgia. They won by 7, right? Texas didn't cover. Kentucky lost by 21 to Georgia on the road. Texas beat them in overtime by 3. The common opponents favor Georgia by a significant margin of victory. I just think they're a much better football team, Donnie.
And by the way, Georgia not turning the football over from the quarterback position, only a few interceptions on the season. If we do look at Gunnar Stockton, Joe's last 4 games, 217, 289, 223, and 264 in the air. Every single game he's played, at least over the last 5, Joe, at least is 62% completion percentage or higher at this point. Talk to me quickly about Gunnar Stockton, where he factors in. And also, these are big wins, Joe. You know what I mean? Like, you need a quarterback that's going to – I'm not going to turn it over. I'm going to throw touchdowns.
15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's battle-tested.
Yep.
He got that experience last year in the semifinal playoff loss to Notre Dame. The kid has stepped up. He's not going to win the Heisman, but, Donnie, he's an integral part of that offense.
We'll be right back. More college football talk.
Detroit's going to be a top 6 team in the East. And they're going to be extremely dangerous. And it may be fun to watching that Central Division between Detroit and Cleveland. Kind of makes you think back to the old early 2000s with LeBron and obviously the Chauncey Billups-led Detroit team. But Detroit basketball's back.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is
Numerous
great.
pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can just cash out and say, see you later, bye-bye, and sell that contract. So there is a big difference. I've already said I will never, ever, ever again make a future bet with a sports book where the money gets tied up and I have to wait till the outcome of the event. Don't have to do that. All future bets for me are going to Kalshi.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And the major thing you're going to say about Tom Izzo for the jump is, Tom Izzo don't duck anybody. You want to hear who they have to play preseason? Kentucky, Duke, UNC, and Arkansas. This is not the Jimmy Boeheim Don't Leave New York Carrier Dome Classic. This guy plays people.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
SEC as we go right here on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie Rightside along with Joe Lisi. Big game in this afternoon is Alabama and it is Oklahoma. In the past, you might be thinking 55, 60 points in this game. That's not the case, Joe. We are seeing 45.5 across the sports betting landscape, but a favorite. That opening line, again, 8.5 dipping now below a touchdown to 6s and 6.5 depending on where you're shopping, Joe. We'll just hit this game right off the top again. Tough to win in Tuscaloosa, but Oklahoma is bringing a nasty defense and maybe getting that healthier John Mateer as we go throughout the season.
He has to put up numbers today, and I'm not just talking on the ground with his legs. I'm talking about 250 plus to stretch that defense over the top. Again, I don't think Oklahoma wins the game with Mateer in the area of 170 passing yards. He's got to be 240, 250. This is why you brought Arbuckle and John Mateer to Norman to stretch that defense over the top. I think their defense potentially can take care of business, but you're not going to limit Ty Simpson to the point, Donnie, where you have no points in this matchup. So, again, they're going to have to score potentially 25 points in this game.
If we look at the quarterback passing props in this one, because Ty Simpson, the legitimate chance to win the Heisman, that's going to go a long way if he has a very good day against a very good Oklahoma team and a great defense here. 268.5 is for Alabama. You take a look at Mateer, 205.5. So, again, 268.5 is Ty Simpson's number. We'll do the same game, Joe. If you had a quarterback to take today at those price points, they're drastically different. Do we think Mateer can get into the 220s or higher?
Yeah, I do. And I think he could potentially throw for 2 passing touchdowns on Alabama. I think Alabama's got a good defense, but I still think they could be, exploited over the top. Deion Burks, you look at some of those wide receivers could step up. Oklahoma's averaging 236 passing yards per game. Mateer does have 19 passing yards, 1,900 passing yards, only 8 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But again, in big games, he has to step up. I know they were able to run the football on Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I think it's a different type of game plan today. They need to be more explosive, and that's why I like Oklahoma.
I like me with a little parlay piece of that spot, Joe. John Mateer, over a half of a touchdown, is only minus 215, Joe. If he doesn't throw a touchdown today, they can't win this game, right?
No. But again, you look at the game last year, they win it 24-3 with sub-quarterback play.
Yeah.
right? Sub-quarterback play with Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins, and they shut down Alabama's offense. So I think that's the one key, is that when you look at Brett Venables matching up with DeBoer, he has a read on him from a defensive perspective. Now, the offense looks different with Ty Simpson, but they can't run the football effectively. They had a much better rush offense last year than they do this year, Alabama.
And you're right about that. Let's start with that right here. Let's go to Alabama's rushing game. Jam Miller, who missed the first game of the season against Florida State. Like, ooh, that's a bad loss for him, and a bad loss for Alabama because they actually lost the football game. But now you're saying this, like, see the graphic, Joe? 39.5?
Donnie, he's only got 340
and by the way,
yards
that
on the
graphic's
year.
showing 39.5, Joe. He's actually down to 36.5. Why?
Yeah. Because
is he going to get one carry? What's going on?
Donnie, Oklahoma's only given up 2.4 yards per rush. They've held 5 opponents under 100 yards rushing. 5 opponents, they're 5-0, and they've won those games by 23 points per game. Now, I will say, the one offense that exploited Oklahoma was Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, but they had a mobile quarterback, right, with Trinidad Chambliss, and he made big throws over the top. It's a different offense for Alabama. Ty Simpson's mobile, but he's going to throw it more times than he's going to run it. And just regular conventional rushing attacks, they shut down. So we'll see how this game plays out. We talk about styles making fights. Yeah. I think Oklahoma's bringing their lunch pail today. And again, I think they throw the kitchen sink offensively at Alabama, and that's why I'm giving them the edge.
Sometimes, Joe, you just have to keep it simple. And the reason I bring this up is, like, the correlation of plays, like, hey, this guy's got to have a good game. This guy's got to have certain statistics here. Let me ask you a question about John Mateer. His rushing prop, 35.5. Can they win this game, Joe, if he doesn't go over 35.5 rushing yards?
Yes,
wow.
Because, I think Oklahoma has to be more aggressive in the passing attack. If you believe Mateer's your guy, you're going to look to exploit them over the top. Think about some of the offenses that were able to move the football in Alabama. Joey Aguilar had one of the best performances. Now, granted, he throws the pick 6 right before the half. Yeah. Otherwise, they're in that game from start to finish. I think Alabama looks to take away Blaylock in the rushing attack. That's where Mateer has to eat. I think they have to be aggressive. First and second downs, throwing passes.
You got a ton of wide receivers if you want action for the Alabama Crimson Tide today. Jeremy Bernard, you got Cuevas, you have Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton, Lottie Brooks at this point. For me, I'd probably take Brooks. I like the way they integrated the young kid into the offense, 42.5. But forget about both teams, or should I say, just forget about one team or the other. Whole game scenario. Who's your pass catcher here today?
It's Burks for Oklahoma. Okay. I took him anytime touchdown plus 260. Did take him over his yards. For me on the Alabama side, again, Bernard in big spots. Yeah. And I know it's Williams lately, but again, when we talk about the big games on the schedule, Georgia, some of the others, it's Bernard stepping up and making plays. So if I had to bet an Alabama player in the passing attack, it would be Jeremy Bernard over Williams today.
You take a look at the touchdown market here, Joe. Everybody here, I'm just looking at FanDuel right now, is plus money. You have Jam Miller, who barely has any rushing yards, but I guess they're going to use him on the goal line, plus 100. Bernard, plus 125. And then the first guy for OU shows up is Xavier Robinson at plus 135. If we do go deep again, Lottie Brooks, plus 310 price. I think it's one of those games where some of these young wide receivers can step up, and you're getting good price points for a lot of these kids.
You are, and if you're back in Oklahoma like I am, it's Burks and it's Blaylock with plus money. I think Blaylock is plus 185. Yeah. Keep an eye out for him. But again, you look at Mateer. If you don't think he's going to get over the rushing yards, he is, I believe, even money to hit pay dirt. So we'll see. I think, Ty Simpson's an option for Alabama as well. Big games could break contain, especially in goal line type of situations.
Now, if we do look at the game itself, Joe, as we talked about, like that opening line, that 8.5, it's down below a touchdown. If we're looking at this game, 3:30 is a kickoff, and I use the bar line of 6. Does this game wind up 5.5? Or 6.5 by the time we get to game time here today?
I think 6.5 because people back Alabama being at home.
Yeah.
They have one home loss dating back to 2020. They're 5-0 at home this year by an average margin of victory of 28 points per game. They're on a basic 8-game winning streak since losing week 1 to Florida State. They've won those games by an average margin of victory, Donnie, of 19.2 points per game. I think people start to buy into Alabama, especially playing well right now. I'm not taking away from what Kalen DeBoer and that team have done. They are very consistent and taking care of business. I just think must-win type of spot, better potential run defense with a veteran quarterback. I'll take my chances with OU.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game, too, because if you do have a victory for Alabama, which means another top 10, top 15 win against Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, that's their layup they used to get before Auburn. Auburn, really not much of a fight there, even though it is the Iron Bowl that's going to come up. So everything on the table for the Alabama Crimson Tide to continue to move up in the standings here, and we'll find out if they can do that. But we are going to focus on a game that kicks off right at noon. That's Pittsburgh, and it's Notre Dame. Next.
Detroit's going to be a top 6 team in the East. And they're going to be extremely dangerous. And it may be fun to watching that Central Division between Detroit and Cleveland. Kind of makes you think back to the old early 2000s with LeBron and obviously the Chauncey Billups-led Detroit team. But Detroit basketball's back.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF now.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF now.
So he's got an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 17-0.
Keep that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can just cash out and say, see you later, bye-bye, and sell that contract. So there is a big difference. I've already said I will never, ever, ever again make a future bet with a sports book where the money gets tied up and I have to wait till the outcome of the event. Don't have to do that. All future bets for me are going to Kalshi.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And the major thing you're going to say about Tom Izzo for the jump is, Tom Izzo don't duck anybody. You want to hear who they have to play preseason? Kentucky, Duke, UNC, and Arkansas. This is not the Jimmy Boeheim Don't Leave New York Carrier Dome Classic. This guy plays people.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid college football today. Donnie Rightside along with Joe Lisi here, waiting for kickoff, which takes place, Joe, in about a half hour. That's Notre Dame and Pittsburgh. And what a better time to talk about Notre Dame and Pittsburgh action as it lines up today. Double-digit favorite for the Fighting Irish. Most books you're looking at right now around 12.5. And a total that, Joe, I'm going to ask you that question next. Are we looking over or under in this game?
I think
points,
under.
Points?
Nah, yeah, I mean, statistically, they could rip right through that. Pitt is putting up 39 points per game, only giving up 20 points to opposing offenses. We know Notre Dame is built potentially to run and throw it with both of those playmakers in the backfield, Price and Love, and obviously the emergence of C.J. Carr. But I think this has a lower scoring game. We're talking about 55.5 in the market.
Yeah.
Donnie, I could see this game 24-17, just an uglier type of game. Played in Pittsburgh. It's cold. It's blustery. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I could be wrong, and I'll change my perception, but I'm going to go on.
It's not that bad, though, Joe. We're at 60 degrees at kickoff with winds around 10 miles per hour, so you should be able to shoot it around that field. And by the way, Heinschel, 264.5. Carr, 260.5, Joe. We're lighting up the scoreboard with those numbers.
Okay, so if you're asking me which quarterback has to get through their total,
let's go.
I'm going to say Carr. And it's going to shock everybody because you have the rushing attack, right? Every time Notre Dame pounds the rock for over 200, they're undefeated this year, 5-0, and have won by an average margin of victory of 27.8 points per game. But that goes right into the strength of Pittsburgh that's only given up 82 rushing yards per game, 2.5 yards per rush. Carr can attack that secondary. The way you beat Pittsburgh is over the top, Donnie. They've allowed 18 passing touchdowns. They've allowed opposing quarterbacks to convert and complete 61% of their passes. They're giving up 240 per game through the air. So if you're looking at Notre Dame, let's throw it to run it later in this matchup.
Interesting stuff here, too, because I do think Notre Dame, Joe, has the best backfield in the country as a tandem. You take a look at Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. You don't get any cheapies, Joe, with Mr. Love out here. His price point, 102.5.
I'd say under. Now, we saw him, one of the games that we bet on against Arkansas, he had like 58 yards, but he accounted for 4 touchdowns. And they utilized him in the receiving game. That's another aspect that when you look at Jeremiah Love, 102, you might want to take both combined rushing and receiving in this game because of how Pitt's going to take away the run.
136.5 for Love.
Okay, so again, though, Donnie.
Screen pass for 50? Bang.
Well, what's his receiving total? I think that might be the way to go today.
Yeah, might be on that one.
Just because, I mean, if Pitt is up for this game, and they will be, they're taking away the run first. Right? Try and run on us. Go ahead. If Notre Dame goes into that, then they're going to be in for a long day. I think they work off a play 37.5, 27.5. That's doable.
Could be doable.
That's a big number.
What about a little Desmond Reed action for Pitt, Joe? 36.5. You got to crank up something on the ground. You got to keep it steaming.
I like Reed on the ground. I do like Reed anytime touchdown as well. I think his number was, when I took it last night, I threw him in a parlay, plus 105. That's doable.
Who's the guy in the air for Pitt? Who's catching passes for Pitt today? Like, we take a look. You got Johnson, you got Reed, you got Williams Jr., you got Hicks out here listed.
I like Johnson, but I'm going to shock you. I went contrarian to the pick. I like Pittsburgh in the game.
Yes.
But I think if Notre Dame does win, it's got to be through the air, right? I took Raritan, the tight end, for Notre Dame. 3-1 anytime touchdown. 50+ receiving today. I believe it's plus 154. Tight ends have abused Pittsburgh at times. And again, we haven't seen him really step up.
Who do you have at tight end?
Raritan. Eli Raritan.
I don't have him listed.
I had him 3-1. He's in my bets.
How about that?
Maybe he's out. I don't know. I got to look.
Let's get the producers back there to do some work on this one here.
37.5.
Oh, am I logged in on the? Let's see. Where are you at, Eli? I'm scrolling down. Oh, there we go. Plus 320. Yeah.
Yeah, 320.
Plus 320.
Anytime.
Price.
I took him 50+ at plus 154. Yeah. So again, tight ends have abused Pittsburgh at times. Wide receivers haven't as much.
I got a good bet for you, Joe. We talk about the total yard scenario. Pitts looks doable, Joe. Let me ask you a number without telling you the number that you think they need to get to here to get it done.
Pittsburgh, I would say 24 to cover that.
No, but total yards.
Oh, total yards. Sorry.
24 total yards gets the win today. I like it.
Total yards, I think 300.
350.5, Joe. I think they can get there. I think they can get there. Do you know what Notre Dame is? Almost 450.
I think it's an under.
Almost 450.
Notre Dame's
448.5, Joe. Is that your under right there? You going under with that?
I would go under.
Bottling up the boys in the backfield?
I would go under because we have Carr at 262. That means they're going to get 190 on the ground.
They got that dominant backfield, Joe. Dominant backfields here. Let's get to Kalshi markets next. Come on back, baby.
Here we go. Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Now,
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
2.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
is Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15 and a half, like Jack Besh this morning was 11 and a half, and his number got bet up to 15 and a half. Tyler Lockett was 16 and a half and bet down to 15 and a half. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
College football today, getting closer to kickoff here at Donnie Rightside along with Joe Lisi. Now we like to do a little sell me something type edge.
Yeah.
Now we do have the crypto maniac known as Joe Lisi next to us here, who should be able to love these markets. And if you haven't watched and read about what's Kalshi, what's Polymarket, and those new markets coming in as opposed to FanDuel and DraftKings here, it's almost like betting the stock market. The good part about it is you can take a bet today. In the 2 or 3 days, if you nail that bet, you can be able to cash out, Joe. Like you just hit a heavy stock. Like you go into Sun Microsystems or whatever it's called, and you buy into it. In 3 days, you can sell it for a massive profit. Do you understand these markets, Joe?
I do understand the markets. It's amazing how some of the predictive markets seem to have the answers before the test, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you see the coaching searches with Arkansas, and Eddie O is now being mentioned for the Arkansas job, and some of these other coaching vacancies. We'll see what transpires, but it does give you the opportunity to potentially buy and sell these markets.
Now, let's take a look at the Heisman Trophy winner, Joe, which, again, each and every week, these numbers are changing on a weekly basis. So if you're buying in cheaply here, you can sell high. But also, Joe, you get a bad number, you can buy out of that number at a nice little loss at this point. Julian Saying, the leader in the clubhouse, a 40% chance. So what does that mean, 40%? You lay $100 down on Julian Saying to win the Heisman Trophy, Joe. That pays back $257. So theoretically, if it does win, that's 157% of that bet you are getting back here. He's the leader. Do you trust him as the leader? Should he win the Heisman?
Well, I mean, top team in the country, playing well, dominating. They're 33.5-point favorites over UCLA. I just don't know. And it's potentially because they're not going to be pushed until the Michigan game, right? Is that going to be enough to get Julian Saying the Heisman Trophy when he technically isn't a household name right now? You think about, Diego Pavia, and you think about Fernando Mendoza, and you think, obviously, Ty Simpson, right? And so you don't think of Julian Saying coming out. Now, if all of a sudden he puts up dynamic numbers, he has an opportunity, but I would still sell that price right here, right now. He's got a 40% number right now. It seems high, and it seems good because Ohio State is basically living up to expectations. But I still think an SEC player potentially could step up and win it at this point.
Let's take a look also, Joe. Number 2 in line here is Fernando Mendoza, 34% chance, which means if you plunk down $100 here at Calcio on that pays back $295. Certainly had that comeback victory last week against Penn State. Down again, one of his better wide receivers, Joe. What do you think are the odds here for Mendoza? Because he's probably going to have to, run the table and beat Ohio State in that Big Ten championship game to win this. And it feels like, Joe, who wins the Big Ten is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. Is that what it is?
I still can't buy into it. Now, he has that Heisman moment because he stepped up in big spots, right? Oregon, he stepped up against Iowa. He stepped up against Penn State, and they were left for dead and buried last week in Happy Valley. You got the Gus Johnson call, give him the Heisman.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's it. Now, people were upset about that. I mean, come on. People were upset. Guys, in the heat of the moment, even though I listened to most of the games with no sound, that was a phenomenal call.
By the way, let me ask you this question, Joe, because we always talk about handicappers and getting the best of the numbers that you have. It's always important to have certain books in your pocket, like, okay, let me go shop it around. But look at this difference, Joe, that we're finding right now. I'm just going to use FanDuel as an instance. Fernando Mendoza to win the Heisman Trophy right now at FanDuel, Joe, plus 110 price. So a $100 wager is going to pay back $110, which means $210 as the total on the back end. Now, we go back to Kalshi here. You place a number on Fernando Mendoza, $100, Joe. That pays back $295 at this point. So a big difference in just a couple books between the predictive markets.
Yeah, the predictive markets give you an opportunity to potentially utilize multiple players.
Sure.
And really dive in at a price that maybe the books aren't seeing or suggesting as clear cut. It gives you the ability to buy low, sell high, and that's what you want to do. But again, it also gives you other options and a way to look at the market maybe potentially that you're not looking at when you just open up a DraftKings or a FanDuel for that matter, right? You have to incorporate and integrate both into your breakdown and an analytical approach. So I suggest, and no matter what book you use, you have to go in with a methodology about what player you believe in, because the predictive markets really expose you a little bit more, especially on the downside when you are wrong, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like you lay out in the book, you know what you're laying out. With the predictive market, a guy's got a 40% shot and you sell it, all of a sudden you're exposing yourself to the upside.
Now, also understand this, Joe, as we sort of take down the list, because it feels to me that we are setting up Sain versus Mendoza in the Heisman Trophy race just to come down to that one final game. Give me another player outside of those two who are the prohibitive favorites right now. Reed, Simpson, Pavia, Smith, Love. Like, who has a realistic chance to win it? Because, again, if we're just looking in the way it's listed here, they're the quarterbacks. Like Marcel Reed, if he runs the table, wins the SEC. He's right up there in case Sain or Mendoza slips. Ty Simpson, same thing in the SEC, Joe. He runs the table and can win that. He's going to take steps above Marcel Reed and maybe catch Mendoza or Sain. Anybody else outside of Sain and Mendoza that you look forward to? Say, you know what? I'd like to invest in that.
Well, I mean, it would be Simpson for me. I mean, because of Alabama, because of knowing they play Oklahoma, he has the rivalry game against Auburn. You have a body of work, only one interception, and a player that's stepping up and playing his best at the end of the regular season. But again, Marcel Reed, here's the thing. Who's more of a household name? Is it Marcel Reed or Ty Simpson? Ty Simpson has played in more marquee primetime type of games and has outperformed the competition, right? He went on the road against Missouri when Missouri was undefeated, won that game, had 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. He goes toe-to-toe with Pavia, gets him in the end, where Pavia didn't have the best game in that matchup. So the more marquee matchups that Ty Simpson steps up on a national stage, he's going to garner that recognition. I will just say this, Jeremiah Smith was in the mention for a lot of these awards, the Heisman Trophy. If Sain's throwing all to Jeremiah Smith in the second half of the season, does that hurt his chances at the Heisman? We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a fun thing because if Sain has big days, that bulk majority has to go to a wide receiver. And if he is catching that, does he get that head up on the quarterback who's actually throwing him the football? We'll find out that also, Joe. SEC winner, which it looks like it's going to probably be Alabama or A&M. But if somebody slips up, Joe, you got a big payday on deck. Georgia listed at 17%, Ole Miss 7%. Texas, who plays today between the hedges with a win, could really send things up, Joe. How about this marketplace? You take $100 wager on Texas today, it returns $1,667 if they can win the SEC. Now, granted, it is a long shot, but to you, is it Alabama and Texas A&M and nobody else?
No, I think over the next couple of weeks, I like Oklahoma today, so it wouldn't be Alabama, right? Yeah, they would get their first conference loss. But again, I still think they're susceptible, and they could lose the Iron Bowl to DJ Durkin and that interim staff. We know Auburn has an above-average rush defense and a solid defense heading into that matchup, so that's always a cause of concern. But it would be Georgia. And again, if they lose this game tonight, then they're out. But I still believe in Kirby Smart. I still believe in their team. But you're talking about getting Texas at a 16-1 number to win the SEC. That's a great, great value right now, especially when you talk about Week 12 3 weeks to go, and you'll be able to pick off a market like that with huge upside is why people dive into the predictive markets.
How about this predictive market, Joe? College football championship winner. I know you like Georgia today to win between the hedges going up against Texas. They're at 8%, Joe, which means you plunk down $100 today and Georgia wins a national championship when it looks like they're probably going to make it in. $1,250 comes back to you that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a shot on Oklahoma, too. And you know, you look at the market in multiple books entering this weekend, they're like a 38-1 shot.
$100 on Kalshi right now. $5,000 is your return.
That's what I'm saying. So if you believe Oklahoma is going to, let's say, knock off Alabama and take care of business against LSU, you take a shot for a national championship. Why? I would back it potentially. And again, you know, gamble and place bets accordingly at your own risk. But experienced quarterback, better defense, right? Top 10 defense. That travels well in a playoff type of environment. So, again, lottery ticket for me would be Oklahoma. But, you know, right now, right here, right now, I still think Georgia potentially could be the best team in the nation.
How about this, Joe? Can I sell you on this one? LSU to win a national championship. You plunk down $100, $10,000. Can you think of a better way to spend $100 than backing LSU to win the national championship?
I could bet $100 on them today on Kalshi, and maybe they win by 40.
About that. How about the Miami Hurricanes, Joe? Also, $100 pays back $10,000. South Beach, Carson Beck, title town.
No shot.
Come on now.
Nah.
All right,
There
how
he
about
is,
Vandy?
tight end.
How about Vandy? Any shot on Vandy?
They can make it. They can make it. They got to win out.
Yep, there you go. Oklahoma, too. Good stuff on Kalshi. More information next.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
2.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15.5, like Jack Besh this morning was 11.5, and his number got bet up to 15.5. Tyler Lockett was 16.5 and bet down to 15.5. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today, right back at it. Close to kickoff here between Pittsburgh and Notre Dame, one of the marquee games of the day, which I expect Notre Dame to win and cover that game and continue their assault on making the college football playoff, Joe. So let's just start with this game right here. 12.5 as we sit. Let me get some of the live updated numbers in the marketplace, because why? 13.5, Joe. The people buying into Notre Dame today, and a total of 55.5.
Yeah,
Come on now. Accuracy.
People are buying in because, again, it's similar to Oklahoma. Notre Dame cannot afford to lose this game in any capacity, right? Again, Pittsburgh can technically afford to lose because the ACC championship is still on the horizon. They face off against Miami and Georgia Tech in back-to-back weeks. But at the end of the day, I still think this game potentially could be fought in a phone booth, lower scoring, blue-collar type of game, even though both quarterbacks are balling out up until this point. And I still believe in Pat Narduzzi. and his defense, again, this is not going to be an easy game, I believe, for Notre Dame. Yes, they have better talent, especially on the defensive side of the football, but I believe in Pitt and what they're doing right now. And again, I think that front seven is going to be very difficult to run on. They're going to need C.J. Carr to step up to cover this 13.5-point number.
Let's take some of these games, Joe. We didn't get in hour number one. That's South Florida and Navy. That also is a noon kickoff today at Navy. 8.5 is the opening numbers. We're seeing some market conditions changing here. FanDuel, as well as BetMGM and also Bet365, Joe, up almost around 10 points to minus 9.5, and a hefty total of 62.5 in this game. Byron Brown and the boys headed north to take on Navy, Joe. What do we think?
Yeah, I actually lean to Navy playing at home because they dominated this game last year. I was on USF last year with a backup quarterback. Brown was out, and they got absolutely abused in that matchup. It was a dead under. Navy and Blake Horvath took it over. They were opportunistic. They had no answers. USF did from an offensive perspective and just wore down. I lean to Navy, but my best bet here is going to shock you. I like the under. I booked it at 63.5. I know that Navy's defense is suspect. I get that USF can move the football, but I think Navy shortens the game, looks to run it and get it into the fourth quarter. I think it's a gift. I think it's a dead under today.
How about Indiana, Joe? Last time we saw them last week was at Penn State. They escaped with a victory late in that football game, a great drive to end it, but now you're seeing themselves favored once again. Last week was 14.5. This week we're double that, Joe. Right around 29 points, depending where you're shopping at, and a low total of 43.5. Windy conditions in Bloomington, Indiana today. A heavy favorite, Indiana, still down Surratt at wide receiver. Do they cover this as, hey, we slipped by last week, let's not do that again, or can Wisconsin slow this game down and keep it within the number?
Donnie, they're going to have to slow it down. Wisconsin has not scored 20 points since week 2, I believe, against Middle Tennessee, where they won 42-10. That is pathetic. I mean, again, they gave Luke Fickell another year in Madison. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This guy was brought in to elevate the program from where Paul Christ was. I know both quarterbacks potentially are available today, but you know you can't go toe-to-toe with Mendoza in that offense. Their defense is suspect. They allowed Maryland to put up 20-plus on them. They're going to be a one-dimensional, one-trick pony. Again, I would probably lean to Wisconsin because either they're going to lose 70-3 or it's going to be maybe a 24-10 game or 24-3 where Indiana wins and doesn't cover. I would take the 28.5, but I don't love it in any capacity.
How about Florida Ole Miss today, Joe? 7 o'clock start. That's going to be from Mississippi today. 11.5 is the number to open up, Joe. I'm still seeing 11.5s across the board, so not much has changed there. But a total, which opened up at that look-ahead number 51.5, now sits at 53.5. Ole Miss by double digits, or does Florida keep this close?
Last year, they lost. This was the game where Jackson Dart threw 2 interceptions in Gainesville.
Crushed their season.
Crushed their season. We saw Wash State catch 31.5 and push Lane Kiffin and that team to the limit. I think if Lane could put up 60 today, he's going to put up 60. He might be actually showboating for the job. So I would only look Ole Miss. I can't bet Florida after you lay 3.5 last week and you lose to a basically gutless offense in Kentucky and you allow them to score 38 on your defense. I mean, that was pathetic. They mailed it in after the loss to Georgia, but again, I can't back Florida on the road here. It's Ole Miss or bust.
It is an interesting thing because it's not like a job interview that he's going to have today, but it would look so much better like if he slaps it on him by 35-plus points, like, all right, we have to get this guy. If it's close, it's like, do we actually want this guy at this point? It feels odd.
It does feel odd. I don't know how Florida could be live. Again, when you allow Kentucky to break your manhood like that, 38-3. Donnie, this was a game that went toe-to-toe with Georgia. They had Georgia on the ropes, and they lost it. I understand.
Might bring back Napier now with that bad.
Napier was at Georgia practice, by the way. Did you see that? He was. These guys, they retread. All these coaches, they lose their jobs, but then they get a job the next year. They're retreads.
James Franklin looking to go to Virginia Tech, Joe. How about that?
Actually, that would be a good hire for them because expectations aren't through the roof. I mean, Virginia Tech, they're not thinking they can win a title anymore.
They don't have that Tidewater region anymore. They better start recruiting better at this point. Now, a team that we haven't talked about a lot this season, Joe, is Penn State because they just don't win a lot of football games. But they are favorites on the road at Michigan State today by 7.5. And you know what? actually think that's the right side of things, Joe.
I do too,
I
but
think Penn State is a favorite.
Donnie, I can't back them. I can't. I mean, Michigan State. I mean, in these games are from the series perspective, they're always a tight game. I actually would lean Penn State, but I didn't take a side.
Yeah.
I think the total is appealing at 49.5 based off that how they moved the football against Indiana. I did take Trevor Pena, anytime touchdown. He had a breakout performance last week. Plus, I think almost like 290 on an anytime. What is he now?
I don't know, but I just need to see like Penn State's remaining schedule. I don't have it up right now. Are they going to go winless, or do they have a layup on their schedule somewhere?
I think next week.
They haven't had a win, so it really can't be a layup
they
when
have
you think
4
about
wins
it.
on the year. 2 more, they go bowling, Donnie.
But do you have their schedule up? Like, who do they actually play to end this season? It's kind of interesting to see that at that point.
What, Penn State?
Yeah, Penn State.
They're 3-6. They need to win out. So right now, their remaining schedule is Nebraska and Rutgers.
That Rutgers game. So wait, so you said they have 3 wins or 4 wins?
3. I thought they had 4.
So they can't go bowling now?
Yes, they can. They can win today.
5?
6.
Oh, I thought you said they have 2 games left.
Yeah, after today.
Oh, after today. All right. They ain't winning. Nah, you know what?
Michigan
Are we
State,
buying into Penn State now to close out the season? They should be able to beat Rutgers. Can they beat Matt Rule? Oh, Matt Rule, tough scene, man.
No quarterback.
Looking that he wanted to come back at that point. Doesn't matter, though. It's Matt Rule. He's going to be put on a show. Say, I'll beat you with your players, and I'll beat you with mine at the same time.
Although the kid that stepped up might be better than Raiola. He completed 13 of 15.
We're 10 minutes away, Joe, from kickoff at this point.
Wait.
We got 1 segment left. We got to get the people fired up for the information that they need before we find out about kickoff here. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi. And it's every Saturday. We do this and have some fun. Come on back. Let's close down this.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away 2 of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
2.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed the by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15.5, like Jack Besh this morning was 11.5, and his number got bet up to 15.5. Tyler Lockett was 16.5 and bet down to 15.5. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Countdown to kickoff, baby. We're a couple minutes away here, so we got to send you out in style and talk about some of the biggest games of the day just to make sure you're ready for those games, Joe. And that one includes Between the Hedges tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, a monster game in the SEC. That's Texas. That's Georgia. And I'm seeing 4.5 in the marketplace right now. We're buying in on the Longhorns, Joe. I know you are.
Yeah, it's
buy in on them.
Divergence. We're seeing 6.5s in the Alabama game and 4.5s in the Georgia game. That's fine. I like Georgia. Again, I think they're the more complete team. I think they step up. They can run the football. I like Nate Frazier to hit pay dirt. I like Zach Branch to go through his total. And I just think they're more prepared for this type of environment than Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian. We talk about their dominance. They're averaging 197 yards on the ground. They can run the football. 303 against Mississippi State, 200-plus against Alabama and Ole Miss. They are battle-tested and blue-collar, and in this type of game, that travels. I like them to dominate. I think they win it by double digits.
I'm watching the bets fire in right now between Texas and Georgia at Calci, Joe. You know the volume is $754,379 right now. And also, when we have fun with this stuff, like you see me, I like Texas getting 6.5. Got a great number, CLV. Woo-hoo! We're in the business and in the building with that one. But, Joe, you can make 50% of your money today if you just go ahead and bet money line on Georgia today. That's a 50% return.
There you go.
And where are you going to find that, Joe?
You're not.
Usually you put it in a CD, you wait for 4% over 6 months, Joe.
That's
you can make 50%
You're making
today.
money. You printed it right here.
I mean, it's
now I've heard also, CLV isn't the way to go.
It's not anymore?
No.
I thought that was the mark for being a great handicapper.
Yeah, but now it's you want to go against the grain.
Oh, no.
Right? And establish yourself.
Well, that's you. Like all that,
I'm a leader. I'm always a leader.
Yeah, like LSU's going to win today.
I think LSU will win today. And
I
I know it's going against me. I don't care. I think they win by double digits. How about that?
How about the
people
Crimson?
telling me that that quarterback is out? That quarterback.
Do you know the quarterback is out?
Michael Van Buren. Yeah, Michael Van Buren might be more athletic and might be better than Garrett Nussmeier. Just keep an eye out for that.
That's why we said, Joe, 1% chance to win that natty, man. It pays back $10,000 at this point. No better time to get by.
What would be the 1% chance? How is that even possible?
Like, how could they even factor? Like, how would they get
losses.
In? Does that mean like everybody in the country has to tie every game on the way out?
But they don't have a head-to-head against anybody.
I don't know.
How is there a 1% shot that they get in?
100 pays $10,000. You in?
No. That's usually I love those lottery tickets.
Yeah.
There's no shot for them to win.
Oh, man, tough scene here. Oklahoma, Alabama, Joe. We're seeing that 8.5 that we had some of those opening lines for Alabama. They're below 7 now. 6.5 is the prevailing number here between Oklahoma and Alabama, as Alabama is a favorite, Joe. 45.5, though. It feels like you just got to go over automatically on that one.
Yeah,
Joe.
I mean, I think I'll tell you what. I'm going to watch this game. I'm going to bet it's a little on the over pre-kick. But if this first quarter gets scoreless 8 minutes, we get into the 30s, that would be an area for me to jump in a big way. You want to discount it that much, I'll take a shot. I still think we get points. I like Oklahoma plus the 6.5. I like them plus 188 and plus 176 now on the money line. I think they step up. I like Deion Burks to hit Bay Dirt at plus 260, and I think Mateer will find a way to gut this out and pull out this win.
I got Bama winning this game, Joe, but again, those Kalshi markets, $100 pays back $304 on the dog price today. Oklahoma, do you think they could come up and pull up that upset, Joe?
You got the CLV there, too.
That's pretty good.
You're not a leader. You're a follower.
I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm loving this rating at this point. And again, we already talked about that Notre Dame game, which is coming up at kickoff. We're getting close to 14 points in that game. That's a lot of points, man.
Now it's 14. Close to, I mean, they got to win by 14. Which, listen, if Notre Dame is good enough where they could have a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter, you get a garbage touchdown, and it's a lot closer than it looks, and somehow, some way you cover. I mean, I'm not suggesting that can't happen. I just think with Pitt playing at home, knowing that they're on a 5-game win streak, they have an offensive identity and a kid that they believe in with Mason Heinzel, I think they could step up. And Narduzzi in these spots at times is sneaky when he's a dog. Again, he did. Let's not forget, Pitt knocked off Mark Richt in Miami years ago on the last weekend of the regular season. He stepped up and gave Clemson a loss on the road. You can never say never with Pittsburgh. In this spot, I'll take the points.
Some are saying, though, Joe, the biggest game of the day is Miami-NC State.
No,
Do you agree with that? The ACC will be determined today.
I think C.J. Bailey and NC State are going to be live. That was a 16.5-point number.
Yeah.
They're a team that can be dangerous. He put up 340 in the win through the air against G-Tech and completed 75% of his passes. Doran can be sneaky as well. I mean, Miami hasn't played a 4-quarter game since they knocked off USF.
They're talented enough.
Stop.
Quarter and a half, they get the job done. They find their ways in today.
You ripped up your T-shirt that had the U on it.
No way. Miami versus Notre Dame in the final, Joe. Also, Iowa and USC, they're going to play in the rain today.
Yeah, I told you.
Points. How about that?
Favors Iowa.
Come on, run it. Run it. Punt it.
It's going to be ugly.
Punt the football.
Yeah.
How are they going to get around L.A. in the rain? People aren't even going to come to that game now at this point. Not used to that stuff.
You're lucky if you have about 10,000 fans in with Iowa.
Coliseum. Tough time.
It's a 3:30 kick, too.
3:30 kick it is, Joe, and that'll do it for the show today. A lot of fun we had today, huh?
Good
New
time.
marketplaces here, money lines, bets all over the place. We'll see you guys next week.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond, as I think a lot of people have been noting. That move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here